The trial of Ashley Benefield coming to a close, and it may already be done by the time you watch or hear this. We're recording this on Friday, the 26th of July. Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, joining me. Ashley on the stand here on Friday morning, and it's been compelling thus far. A lot of the trial, in my opinion, not all that compelling. But what we're hearing on the stand right now, and this is prior to cross happening, just basing it on what we're hearing directly from her attorney, is a picture of Doug that is not all that flattering, and it's not just he said, she said. We're learning more about the past directly from the voice of the dead, his ex-wife, in a text message talking about prior abuse on their honeymoon, him kicking her, saying how displeased she was by that when basically his Viagra didn't work. And also accusations in there of him trying to record them having sex on their honeymoon without her knowledge. It's not the brightest picture. Jennifer, what's your reactions thus far now that we're just learning these little pieces of the past?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, procedurally, it just gives me a little bit of pause that they didn't have a digital expert come in and extract these text messages and authenticate them, if you will. I mean, we're really relying on Ashley and her attorney to authenticate this. So I'm just procedurally, it seems a little bit off, but making the presumption that indeed they're legitimate, it looks bad. It's what we call kind of 404B evidence, right?
Yeah.
Evidence of prior acts. So it's concerning.
It is concerning that it's being put out there like this. I mean, I would assume pieces like this would have had to have been in discovery, would they not? That the prosecution would also be aware that these things were going to be brought up because they're kind of big bombshells in the story of Doug.
Oh yeah, from a discovery standpoint, they absolutely would have had to known about this, and I would guess they did know about this. Again, I just don't understand why we haven't seen any introduction of digital evidence from her phone or from the computers that she used. Did she search anything? All these text messages that exist. It's just that is the kind of evidence you really need to lock in a he said, she said,
Mhm.
and it looks like they're getting the first bite of the apple right here.
And why do you think that is? I mean, there's so many cases where that ends up being like the crucial evidence in the case, even over DNA or anything of that nature. And granted, we know she shot him. That's not up for debate here. She admits all that. But as to why, that's where we're getting to the battered spouse syndrome. But we are seeing some of these texts, at least they're being brought up this way, but we're not getting confirmation, like you said, from any digital or forensic expert that's going to say, yes, these are in fact from him, that these aren't just made up and put on paper and saying, hey, this is evidence right here. Um, or was that done, on the outside? Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of confused by that.
Yeah, me too. It makes me wonder, did law enforcement do search warrants and do appropriate digital analysis of her phone and any electronics she used? I believe that that would be center of a case like this because of this self-defense. Well, if she Googled anything about guns or wanting a gun or, anything that could have been inflammatory, could have been used. Plus, her text messaging, possibly with family, with friends, possibly leading up to this, but yet we're seeing nothing. Did law enforcement just not serve subpoenas and search warrants in this arena?
I don't know. It's rather bizarre because I think even before this trial started, that's what a lot of us were speculating on. Is this case is going to be decided based on those pieces, and we're not even really hearing those pieces from any sort of an expert. There has been some interesting testimony this week, and I think what we're getting to in some of the testimony in the trial here of Ashley Benefield is her credibility. That's the biggest thing I think that's on trial here, because it does seem in some cases that she's fairly credible. And there's some cases where it seems, well, you've been making some things up. And I think it's a gray area, quite honestly, at the end of the day, that we're dealing with. It doesn't help anybody when it's a gray area because then you don't know what's the truth and what's made up or fabricated or expounded upon to an extreme degree to make herself look better. This is some testimony from Chris Gillum talking about an interaction in court where she just insisted that Doug be arrested because if not, he was going to kill her and the baby. And it seemed very out of turn when this took place. Let's take a look.
She was upset. And at that point, I would call it a dramatic cry, hysterical cry, started happening. And I'm still informing her, we're not going to do that. We're just not going to arrest him in the courtroom. And she made a comment, something to the effect of, if the judge sees you arrest him, this will help me keep my baby. So I thought that was a pretty bold statement. And I'm like, I'm still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. She just gave birth. Maybe she's confused. And I'm trying to explain to her gently, that's just not going to happen, especially not going to happen for a judge to see to help you in a civil matter.
And did you, in fact, explain all that to her?
Yes, I did.
And how did she react?
We went back and forth 5 minutes or so. Just kept requesting to arrest him. I said, that's not going to happen. And her tone turned from the crying to very aggressive, and she says, you will effing arrest him in front of the judge, and I will make sure you do it.
What did you say to that?
I started pushing back a little bit, and I said, it's not going to happen. Whatever you say or do, you cannot make me arrest somebody in front of a judge, and it's just not going to happen.
And what did she do?
I guess she started crying again, and came out with a comment, something to the effect of, I can't believe you're willing to allow Doug to kill me and the baby.
Okay.
And that hadn't come up in this phone call. The phone call dealt with me arresting Doug in front of a judge. And then it turned to arresting, or not arresting him, and allowing me to let him kill her and the baby.
It's interesting the way that she behaved in court. Interesting on two ways, because if you're looking at it and assuming she's kind of a narcissistic person, that's basically kind of classic narcissistic behavior. If you will do this now, and if you don't, I'm going to have a fit, I'm going to stomp my feet, I'm going to do everything. It can also be the testimony of someone who knows more personally of what's going on, who is a victim of abuse, who has not been able to speak out or have her experiences heard and understood by anybody on the outside, which is why it may be coming across as a bit out of turn. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think this, Tony. First of all, when a judge heard from her before, that judge found her completely unreliable
Hmm.
and said there was not a scintilla of information she provided that would persuade the judge of her accusations. But this is the thing, Tony. Those aren't, those jurors are not judges.
Hmm.
They're jurors. And all they have to do is touch one juror to believe the other side of the coin that you just talked about.
Hmm.
In other words, that she knew something, and that's why she was acting so erratic and requesting, that he be arrested because she feared for her life or the life of a baby. So I don't know that that testimony necessarily helped if one person is thinking that maybe she was abused.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.